White bread. It's soft, fluffy, and for many of us, it's comfort food. From morning toast to sandwiches, it's been a part of daily meals for decades. But for people who are watching their blood sugar, this innocent-looking bread might not be as harmless as it seems. So today, let's break down what really happens when we eat white bread, why it affects our blood sugar so quickly, and what better options we can choose instead. What is white bread really? Let's start with the basics. White bread is made from refined wheat flour, also known as all-purpose or white flour. During refining, the bran, the fiber-rich outer layer, and the germ, the nutrient-packed inner part, are removed, leaving only the starchy endosperm. That's what gives white bread its light texture, but also what strips away most of its natural fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Manufacturers often enrich it by adding back some nutrients like iron or B vitamins, but the fiber is usually gone for good. And that fiber loss plays a big role in how white bread affects our blood sugar. Why white bread spikes blood sugar so fast? When we eat white bread, our body breaks it down into glucose very quickly. Because it's low in fiber, the carbohydrates are digested and absorbed almost immediately, leading to a rapid rise in blood glucose levels. After that quick spike, our blood sugar often drops just as fast, leaving us tired, irritable, or craving more carbs soon after. That crash effect is one reason white bread can make us reach for snacks again so quickly. It's a short burst of energy, not lasting fuel. In fact, white bread has a high glycemic index, GI, often between 70 and 85, depending on the brand. Foods in that range are considered high GI, meaning they cause a sharp and fast blood sugar spike. If we compare this to whole grain bread, which usually has a GI around 50 or lower, the difference is huge. Over time, eating high GI foods regularly can make it harder for our body to manage insulin efficiently, which can lead to insulin resistance and metabolic issues. That's why many health professionals recommend limiting white bread if we're managing diabetes or trying to keep blood sugar steady. The science behind it: fiber and blood sugar. Why is fiber so important here? Fiber acts like a speed bump for digestion. It slows down how quickly glucose enters the bloodstream. When we eat bread with fiber, like whole grain or sprouted grain varieties, our blood sugar rises more slowly, and we stay full longer. Without that fiber, glucose floods the bloodstream. The pancreas has to release more insulin to handle it, and that roller coaster of energy and hunger begins. That's why white bread often leaves us feeling hungry again just an hour or two later. White bread and insulin resistance. Frequent blood sugar spikes can take a toll over time. When our body constantly deals with high glucose levels, our cells can start resisting insulin's signal, meaning it takes more and more insulin to get glucose into the cells. This can eventually contribute to prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. Several studies have found that diets high in refined carbohydrates, including white bread, are linked with a greater risk of insulin resistance and metabolic issues. This doesn't mean a single slice will hurt us, but if white bread is a daily habit, it's worth rethinking how much and how often we eat it. Are there any benefits to white bread? To be fair, white bread does have a few minor upsides. Because it's low in fiber, it's easier to digest for people with certain digestive issues, like after a stomach surgery or when experiencing IBS flare-ups. It's also fortified with B vitamins and iron in many countries, which can help with nutrient intake if our diet is limited. However, those benefits don't outweigh the drawbacks, especially for blood sugar management. It's best used sparingly, or paired with foods that help slow down glucose absorption. How to make white bread less harmful for blood sugar. If we're not ready to give up white bread entirely, here are a few practical tips. Add protein or healthy fats. Pair white bread with eggs, avocado, peanut butter, or turkey. This slows digestion and keeps blood sugar steadier. We can also pair it with fiber-rich sides, like leafy salads or sliced cucumbers, to slow the absorption even further. The idea isn't to completely avoid white bread, but to balance it with foods that support better glucose control. Watch portion sizes. 2 thick slices of white bread can have over 40 grams of carbs. Try 1 slice for open-faced sandwiches instead. Choose sourdough when possible. Even white sourdough has a lower glycemic response thanks to the fermentation process. Avoid sugary spreads. Jelly, honey, and sweetened peanut butter can double the sugar impact. Simple adjustments like these can make a noticeable difference. Better alternatives to white bread. If we want to keep enjoying bread while managing blood sugar, there are great alternatives. Whole grain bread, made from the entire grain, including bran and germ, more fiber, more nutrients, lower GI. For example, swapping a morning toast from white to whole grain, topped with avocado or boiled egg, can completely change how our blood sugar behaves through the morning. Sprouted grain bread, easier to digest, slightly higher in protein, and often lower in carbs. Oat bread contains beta-glucan fiber, which can help lower cholesterol and improve glucose control. Rye bread is dense and high in fiber. It has one of the lowest GI scores among bread types. Even some gluten-free breads made with chickpea or almond flour can be excellent low-carb choices. The key is to check labels and look for at least 3 grams of fiber per slice and minimal added sugars. The bigger picture: bread in a balanced diet. It's easy to label foods as good or bad, but in reality, it's about balance and context. White bread on its own isn't toxic. The problem starts when it becomes the main source of carbs in our diet. When we combine white bread with sugary drinks, processed snacks, and low activity, that's when the risk compounds. If we instead build meals around whole foods, proteins, vegetables, healthy fats, and high fiber carbs, an occasional slice of white bread won't make much difference. It's the overall pattern that determines how our blood sugar behaves in the long run. Final thoughts. So, why does white bread affect blood sugar so much? Because it's refined, fast digesting, and almost fiber-free. If we want better blood sugar control, switching to fiber-rich whole grain options is one of the simplest and most effective steps we can take. And if we do enjoy white bread occasionally, let's make it smarter: smaller portions, balanced meals, and mindful choices. To keep learning how everyday foods impact blood sugar and how to make smarter swaps, check out our next video.